He refused to shake her hand because he thought she was just staff, but by the time he realized who she was, she'd already cost him $7 billion and his entire legacy. Ava Daniels entered the gleaming glass lobby of Evercore Industries with deliberate grace. The marble floors reflected the overhead lights like a mirror, but her modest attire, gray blazer, simple blouse, sensible flats, made her nearly invisible to those who only saw power in tailored suits and Rolex watches. That's exactly how she liked it. Ava was part of a delegation from Trinity Capital, a financial firm considering a $7 billion investment that could transform the tech industry. Her presence here wasn't about introductions or applause. It was about observation, strategy, and power executed with silence. As she stood by the conference room, waiting with the others, she took note of how people looked at her, if they even looked at all. The dismissive glances, the tone-deaf greetings, the quiet underestimations. They didn't hurt her. They simply confirmed what she already knew. The room had no idea who she really was. Her silence wasn't submission. It was calculation. And as she kept her expression unreadable, she was already analyzing the power dynamics and preparing for the moment she would flip the entire narrative. The moment came quickly and brutally. Evercore's CEO, Grant Holston, strutted into the room with the smug assurance of a man used to owning every space he walked into. He was all charm and firm handshakes until he saw her. As his assistant pointed out Ava and began to introduce her, he cut in mid-sentence, not even allowing her name to be spoken. "I don't shake hands with staff," he muttered dismissively, throwing a glance at Ava's dark skin and modest clothing before breezing past her without acknowledgement. A few people chuckled uncomfortably. The room froze. Ava, hands still outstretched, slowly lowered it with a steady expression. He didn't know her. He hadn't asked. He hadn't cared. Throughout the meeting, Grant spoke about diversity as a PR move, using phrases like legacy control and high-risk demographics without irony. Then he turned to Ava, smiled, and asked her to fetch more water. That was the moment she stood, walked silently out of the room, and decided the deal was dead, and she would bury it with elegance. 3 hours later, the headlines were already flashing across financial news outlets. Trinity Capital had pulled its $7 billion investment from Evercore Industries without warning or explanation. Stocks plummeted within minutes. Nearly $800 million in shareholder value evaporated before lunch. Investors panicked. The board went into emergency meetings. Grant Holston? He was still laughing about the water girl, completely unaware that she had just dismantled his empire with one silent exit. It wasn't until CNBC ran a breaking news segment with Ava Daniels' photo that the realization hit him. The headline read, "Trinity Capital withdraws investment over CEO's behavior." Grant's grin faltered. He leaned closer to the screen, watching in disbelief as Ava's full title appeared beneath her photo. Managing Partner, Trinity Capital. The woman he dismissed had not only been the decision-maker. She was the deal. And she had just walked out of his company's future like it meant nothing. The boardroom at Evercore erupted into chaos. Grant's voice rose as he barked questions, desperate for someone to tell him this was a mistake. But it wasn't. His assistant nodded silently. She was the decision-maker, someone confirmed. She was the deal. Meanwhile, Ava appeared on another network, calm and composed, standing in the sleek office of a competing firm. She announced a new strategic partnership, one that would leave Evercore in the dust. The cameras captured her smile, poised and dignified, as she spoke about values, ethics, and respect. Grant, sweating now, grabbed his phone and dialed her number with trembling fingers. Straight to voicemail. Hi, this is Ava Daniels. If I'm unavailable, I'm probably in a meeting with someone who understands respect. The message ended with a cold beep. Grant dropped the phone onto the boardroom table, the weight of what he'd lost sinking in. It wasn't just a business loss. It was a legacy shattered by arrogance and ignorance. Outside of Evercore's offices, reporters gathered, cameras rolling, microphones ready, but there was no statement, no press conference. The silence from Trinity Capital was deafening and powerful. Social media exploded. Analysts speculated. Shareholders screamed. And in boardrooms across the financial world, Ava's name was suddenly spoken with a new reverence. She had done what few dared. She had quietly dismantled a billion-dollar corporation with the grace of a single decision, and all without raising her voice. While the financial world reeled, Ava was already 3 steps ahead, working on the next deal with companies who shared her values. Her phone buzzed with congratulatory texts, offers, and invitations to speak at panels and summits. But she declined them all. She had nothing to prove. The silence that had once been mistaken for weakness had now become her greatest weapon. People listened now not because she demanded it, but because they feared the cost of not. Evercore's downfall wasn't just financial. It was personal, reputational, and cultural. Clients began pulling out. Partners distanced themselves. The company's name, once associated with dominance, was now synonymous with disgrace. Internally, employees questioned the leadership. Externally, the public demanded accountability. And Grant Holston? He became the face of corporate arrogance, the warning sign every business school professor pointed to when teaching about ethical leadership. He issued a half-hearted apology that did nothing to repair the damage. The board moved to replace him, but the scar remained. A single sentence, a single gesture, refusing a handshake had cost him everything. His empire, his credibility, his legacy, all unraveled by a woman he had underestimated in the span of 30 seconds. And as Ava's story continued to circulate, she remained silent.
No interviews.
No victory laps, just forward motion, built on values, not vengeance. Ava Daniels never gloated. She didn't need to. Her victory wasn't loud, it was lasting. The ripple effect of her choice impacted not just one company, but an entire industry. Firms began reviewing their internal cultures. CEOs took meetings they previously wouldn't have. Diversity policies were no longer about optics, they were about survival. Quietly, Ava continued to lead Trinity Capital with unmatched precision, choosing partnerships based on ethical alignment, not dollar signs. In exclusive circles, her name carried weight not just for her financial acumen, but for the moral authority she carried without ever needing to shout. She became a symbol, not just of success, but of strength without spectacle. People didn't just admire her, they respected her. And in business, respect, true respect, is rarer than any billion-dollar deal. Ava had both. The story of Ava Daniels became legend not because of drama or scandal, but because of its simplicity. A woman entered a room. She was dismissed. She made a decision. And that decision cost an empire. In a world obsessed with volume, Ava chose silence. In a culture that often confuses titles with talent, she let her results speak louder than any confrontation ever could. And the lesson was crystal clear. Never underestimate someone because of how they look. One handshake refused, one moment of arrogance can cost billions. So the next time someone walks into a room quietly, observe before you dismiss. Because the most powerful person in the room is often the one who doesn't need to announce it. Ava Daniels proved that, and the world will never forget it. Some power doesn't need a loud voice, just one smart decision. If this story moved you, Subscribe for more powerful narratives that inspire, challenge, and reveal the truth behind success and failure.